New York City, a name that evokes images of towering skyscrapers, bustling streets, honking taxis, and the ceaseless energy of millions of people moving through one of the world's most iconic metropolises. For decades, it has also been a city defined by its crime headlines. Shootings in the subway, street robberies, homicides, and violent incidents that make national news. Its reputation has long balanced on the knife edge between vibrancy and danger, a place where the city never sleeps and, at times, neither does fear. Yet, in January 2026, something remarkable happened. Something almost unimaginable in the modern narrative of New York City. The city recorded what officials are calling the safest January in decades. Violent crime plummeted. Shooting incidents, which had often dominated headlines, fell to levels unseen in years. Homicides, too, reached historic lows. Boroughs that had once struggled with persistent violence reported months free of murder. The rhythm of the city's streets changed in subtle but significant ways, a quiet shift in a place long associated with unpredictability and danger. The same city that had once seemed to pulse with risk now experienced an almost surreal calm, a pause in the chaos, a rare moment when New Yorkers could walk through their neighborhoods with a sense of relief rather than anxiety. At the helm of this unprecedented transformation was Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch, a leader tasked with one of the most demanding responsibilities in law enforcement, keeping a city of over 8 million people safe across 5 boroughs, with challenges ranging from street-level crimes to large-scale organized operations. Her strategies, decisions, and leadership style became the cornerstone of this extraordinary moment. Under her guidance, officers deployed in innovative ways, community engagement initiatives were prioritized, and law enforcement tactics evolved to meet the unique demands of a modern metropolis. The question that captivates both residents and the nation is clear. How did New York City achieve this remarkable shift? What strategies, decisions, and circumstances converged to create a citywide drop in violence so dramatic that it has made history? This story is not just about numbers on a report or statistics on a page. It is about the people who patrol the streets, the leadership that directs them, the residents who feel the impact, and the city itself, a living, breathing organism that responded to a unique moment in time. If you want to explore the story behind this historic shift, the strategies that made it possible, and the human stories that unfolded in the city during this record-breaking month, make sure to subscribe to Real Crime Saga and hit the notification bell. We bring you real-life stories of crime, safety, and the moments that changed cities forever. To understand the significance of the record-breaking calm in January 2026, it is essential to appreciate the vast scale and complexity of New York City itself. This is a city unlike any other, sprawling across 5 boroughs: Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx, and Staten Island, each with its own distinct character, challenges, and communities. Millions of people move through its streets daily, navigating a labyrinth of avenues, subways, and side streets, contributing to the constant pulse of urban life. From the glimmering skyline of Manhattan to the quieter residential blocks of Staten Island, New York City is a patchwork of energy, ambition, culture, and human activity. It is a city that thrives on motion, on opportunity, on unpredictability, and historically on the tensions that come with density and diversity. Yet this immense scale also presents extraordinary challenges for public safety. Over the decades, New York City has grappled with surges in crime that tested both residents and law enforcement. High-profile shootings, street-level violence, armed robberies, and homicides have all punctuated the city's modern history. For every headline celebrating the vibrancy of New York, there have been others documenting danger, fear, and tragedy. Even small incidents can ripple across neighborhoods, as fear spreads through communities, influencing how people live, commute, and interact. Despite these challenges, New York City has always been a city of resilience. Its streets, while unpredictable, are filled with life and purpose. Residents navigate their daily routines alongside tourists, business travelers, and the countless individuals who make the city their home. The city is a complex ecosystem where every change, no matter how subtle, can have far-reaching effects. A single policy shift, an innovative policing strategy, or a change in community engagement can ripple across boroughs, affecting behavior, perceptions, and outcomes in ways that may seem almost imperceptible at first. This backdrop of scale, density, and complexity makes the record-breaking safety of January 2026 all the more remarkable. Achieving such a reduction in violent crime was not simply a matter of chance. It was a triumph against the odds, a moment where leadership, strategy, and circumstance aligned within one of the busiest and most complicated urban landscapes on the planet. It is within this context, a city of millions, a city historically marked by headlines of chaos and crime, that the story of New York's safest January begins to unfold. As we continue, we will meet the leader who guided this transformation, explore the strategies that reshaped the city's streets, and understand how such a monumental shift was possible in a place where unpredictability is a constant companion. Every city's safety story has faces behind it, individuals whose decisions shape the streets, the neighborhoods, and the lives of millions. In January 2026, one such figure stood at the forefront of New York City's historic drop in violent crime. NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch. Tasked with overseeing one of the largest and most complex police departments in the world, Tisch carries a responsibility that few can fully comprehend. The NYPD manages more than 36,000 officers, spans 5 boroughs, and must respond not only to day-to-day crime, but also to large-scale events, evolving threats, and the pressures of public scrutiny. In a city where every shooting, robbery, or violent incident makes headlines, the weight on her shoulders is immense. Commissioner Tisch's approach to law enforcement combines traditional policing with modern strategies. She emphasizes public safety while maintaining strong ties to the communities that the NYPD serves. Community engagement is not a peripheral concern. It is central to her leadership philosophy. She understands that effective policing relies not only on the officers on the beat, but also on the trust and cooperation of the residents whose neighborhoods they protect. By cultivating communication, transparency, and collaboration, Tisch has aimed to bridge the gap between law enforcement and the people, creating a partnership that strengthens safety at every level. Beyond engagement, Commissioner Tisch has championed data-driven policing, employing sophisticated analysis to identify patterns of crime before they escalate. This method allows the department to allocate resources strategically, anticipating where incidents may occur and preventing violence before it happens. It is a proactive approach, one that moves away from reacting to crime after the fact, and instead seeks to reshape the environment that allows it to flourish. In a city as vast and intricate as New York, this ability to anticipate and respond is essential. The stakes of leadership in a city like New York are magnified by public scrutiny. Every statistic, every arrest, and every crime report is examined not just by city officials, but by residents, journalists, and a global audience. Tisch's tenure coincided with heightened attention to violent crime trends, making her decisions pivotal. Her leadership became a central element in understanding the city's record-breaking numbers, the dramatic reduction in shootings, the historically low homicides, and the overall sense of calm that blanketed the streets that January. In understanding Tisch's role, we see that New York City's safety story is not only about numbers on a chart, but about vision, strategy, and human leadership. Commissioner Tisch's guidance, decisions, and oversight provided the foundation for the remarkable transformation of the city's streets, setting the stage for a January unlike any other in recent memory. January 2026 will be remembered in New York City not for chaos or headlines about violence, but for an unprecedented calm that swept across its streets. The statistics emerging from the NYPD were almost surreal. Shooting incidents, once a common feature of the city's news cycle, dropped dramatically. In boroughs that had long been considered high risk, officers reported levels of gun violence that had not been seen in decades. Across the city, shooting incidents plummeted and the number of victims declined in tandem. The data painted a picture that seemed almost incompatible with the city's reputation for unpredictability and urban danger. Homicides, another critical measure of public safety, also reached historic lows. In a city where every month had, for generations, carried the potential for tragedy, January 2026 saw numbers that startled residents and officials alike. Some boroughs, including Manhattan and Staten Island, recorded 0 murders for the entire month, an extraordinary milestone that had no parallel in modern records. The contrast could not have been starker. Just years earlier, headlines were dominated by stories of violent confrontations, street crimes, and neighborhoods grappling with persistent fear. Now, the same streets were experiencing a calm that seemed almost otherworldly, a pause in the relentless rhythm of city life. This record-breaking shift was not merely statistical. It represented a tangible change in how New Yorkers experienced their environment. Residents reported feeling safer walking to work, commuting on subways, or simply going about their daily routines. Businesses and neighborhoods once considered volatile observed fewer incidents affecting employees or customers. Even casual observers noted a subtle but real difference in the energy of the city streets. A city renowned for its ceaseless pulse, now moving with a newfound steadiness. The enormity of this transformation cannot be overstated. These numbers were not the result of chance. They were the product of leadership, strategy, and coordinated effort. The contrast between the city's historical unpredictability and the calm of this record-setting January underscores just how remarkable this achievement was. It also set the stage for further analysis. Understanding the methods, decisions, and policies that enabled such a dramatic improvement in public safety. If you want to uncover how New York City achieved these historic lows, the strategies behind this transformation, and the human stories that unfolded during this record-breaking month, make sure to subscribe to Real Crime Saga and hit the notification bell. We bring you the true stories behind headlines, exploring the moments that change cities and the people who make safety possible. While the statistics of January 2026 stunned New Yorkers and the nation, the story behind these numbers reveals a city transformed not by chance, but by strategy, foresight, and disciplined execution. The calm on the streets of New York was the result of careful planning, meticulous coordination, and a comprehensive approach to public safety that combined traditional policing with innovative methods. At the heart of this transformation was the expanded presence of foot patrols in key neighborhoods. Officers were strategically placed in areas that historically experienced higher rates of violent crime, shootings, and robberies. Unlike reactive policing, which responds to incidents after they occur, these foot patrols created visibility, accessibility, and a sense of security in the community. Residents walking their streets, waiting at subway stations, or running errands could see the officers actively present a simple yet profoundly effective deterrent against crime. The psychology of visibility, knowing law enforcement was attentive, ready, and in proximity, played a significant role in preventing potential incidents from escalating into violence. In tandem with physical presence, the NYPD relied heavily on data-driven deployment of officers. Sophisticated analytical tools allowed the department to track patterns, identify hotspots, and anticipate where crimes were most likely to occur. This predictive approach meant that resources were not just distributed evenly, but intelligently, focusing on moments and places with the highest risk. It was a proactive methodology, one that disrupted potential criminal activity before it could manifest, rather than reacting afterward. Officers were sent to intervene early, sometimes subtly, sometimes decisively, based on insights derived from comprehensive crime data. Beyond enforcement, the department emphasized community outreach and preventive measures. Engaging directly with residents, local organizations, and community leaders, the NYPD fostered cooperation and trust. Programs focused on youth engagement, conflict resolution, and neighborhood support created a network of community awareness that reinforced the efforts of officers on the streets. By addressing the social dynamics underlying criminal behavior, the department not only reduced immediate threats, but helped prevent future escalation. Together, these strategies illustrate that New York City's record-breaking January was far from accidental. It was the outcome of deliberate, coordinated planning executed across multiple levels. Leadership directing strategy, officers implementing it on the ground, and communities participating in the process. This combination of visible policing, intelligent deployment, and proactive outreach created a city where the streets were calmer, violence diminished, and New Yorkers could feel a tangible sense of security. In understanding these mechanisms, we see that safety in a city as vast and complex as New York is never random. It is the product of strategy, foresight, and collaboration, showing that even the most unpredictable urban landscapes can change when leadership, data, and community work in concert. The streets of New York City in January 2026 were quieter in a way that residents could feel. It was not a silence born of absence, but of calm, a subtle change that transformed the rhythm of daily life. For the millions who live, work, and commute here, the difference was tangible. Walks through neighborhoods, once accompanied by a heightened sense of vigilance, became moments of normalcy. People began noticing the small details. Children playing more freely in parks, shopkeepers opening their doors earlier, and pedestrians navigating intersections without the undercurrent of worry that had long defined city life. Commuters reported feeling safer on subways and buses, places that had historically carried both the energy of millions and the risk of unpredictable incidents. The perception of safety is powerful. It shapes how people move through the city, interact with strangers, and conduct their daily routines. January's record-breaking decline in violent crime allowed New Yorkers to reclaim spaces they had once approached with caution. Public perception shifted almost overnight, reflecting the direct impact of proactive policing and community engagement strategies. Business owners also experienced a new sense of confidence. Neighborhood shops, small restaurants, and local vendors noticed fewer incidents of theft, vandalism, or confrontations around their premises. For them, the city's safer streets were not just abstract statistics. They translated into measurable benefits, fewer disruptions, reduced losses, and an environment where employees and customers could feel secure. The combination of visible policing and a heightened sense of community vigilance created a climate in which commerce, social interaction, and everyday life could proceed with a renewed sense of normalcy. Residents expressed mixed but thoughtful reflections on why this change occurred. Some credited the police efforts, emphasizing the impact of officers on foot patrols, rapid response times, and data-informed deployment. Others highlighted community engagement, noting that neighborhood awareness, youth outreach programs, and local collaboration played an equally vital role in preventing violence before it could erupt. It became clear that safety was not solely the result of law enforcement, but a collective effort, a partnership between the NYPD and the city's residents. Across the boroughs, this newfound calm sparked conversations about what a safer city could look like in the long term. Families felt relief, knowing that the streets their children walked each day were markedly more secure. Commuters felt confidence returning to their daily routines, and business owners could plan without the same level of anxiety that had shadowed them in previous years. January 2026 was not just a statistical milestone. It was a lived experience for millions, demonstrating that deliberate, coordinated efforts could transform an urban environment long associated with unpredictability and risk. While January 2026 will be remembered as a historic month of calm on New York City streets, it is important to recognize that the story is not entirely one of unbroken success. Urban safety is rarely absolute. Crime, by its very nature, is unpredictable, multifaceted, and influenced by countless social, economic, and environmental factors. Even in a city that experienced its lowest violent crime numbers in decades, certain categories of incidents did not follow the same downward trend. Reports indicated that transit-related crimes, for example, saw small increases in some areas. While shootings and homicides declined dramatically, subway and bus incidents involving theft, harassment, or minor assaults remained a concern for commuters and law enforcement alike. The complexity of managing public safety in a city as densely populated and dynamic as New York means that even when one type of crime drops sharply, others may persist or fluctuate due to different circumstances. Transit systems are microcosms of the city itself, heavily trafficked, constantly in motion, and uniquely challenging to police in real time. Similarly, there were modest rises in certain assault cases and property-related incidents, reminding both officials and residents that no city, however well managed, can eliminate every risk entirely. These incidents, though statistically minor compared to the historic declines in shootings and homicides, underscore an essential truth about urban life. The reduction of one threat does not automatically mean the eradication of all dangers. Safety is a constant process, requiring vigilance, adaptive strategies, and sustained engagement from both law enforcement and the public. Acknowledging these nuances adds depth to the narrative of New York City's safest January. It illustrates that public safety is not a single measure or a static achievement, but a delicate balance of multiple factors. Commissioner Tisch and her department were not claiming perfection, nor were residents experiencing a city free of all crime. Instead, what was remarkable was the significant shift in the city's overall risk profile. Even with isolated increases in specific areas, the sense of security and reduction in life-threatening incidents transformed how people experience the city on a daily basis. By presenting these contrasts, the story becomes more authentic. It is not simply a celebration of record-breaking statistics, but a recognition of the complexity and multifaceted nature of urban safety. New York City's journey illustrates that progress is real and measurable, yet ongoing. The challenges that remain, transit crime, minor assaults, property theft, are reminders that leadership, strategy, and community engagement must be continuous efforts, not one-time initiatives, to sustain the positive momentum achieved during this historic month. As the city began to celebrate its historic decline in violent crime, Commissioner Jessica Tisch remained steadfastly focused on perspective and responsibility. For her, the record-breaking statistics of January 2026 were not a reason for complacency, but a moment to reflect on the hard work, strategy, and coordination that had made such a transformation possible. Leadership, she emphasized, is measured not only in the achievements displayed on paper, but in the ability to sustain those results in the months and years ahead. Commissioner Tisch publicly acknowledged the efforts of every officer who walked the streets, monitored data, and engaged with communities across the 5 boroughs. From patrol officers in high-density neighborhoods to specialized units analyzing crime trends, the department had operated as a cohesive system, a network where strategy and execution intersected. Tisch recognized that these individuals were not just following orders, but were actively shaping the city's environment, often facing challenging and unpredictable conditions while maintaining professionalism and vigilance. However, Tisch also reminded the public and her officers alike that 1 month of record-breaking safety does not equate to permanent security. Sustaining a city's safety is an ongoing process that requires vigilance, adaptability, and collaboration. She emphasized the importance of continued community engagement, ensuring that residents remain partners in safety through awareness, communication, and proactive participation. Leadership, in this context, extends beyond directives or policy. It requires fostering a culture where law enforcement and citizens work together to anticipate threats, prevent escalation, and respond swiftly when incidents occur. Adaptive policing was another cornerstone of Tisch's approach. She highlighted that crime patterns evolve, and what works today may require modification tomorrow. The department's strategies, including predictive deployment, visible patrols, and targeted outreach, must remain flexible to respond to emerging trends. In her statements, Tisch consistently underscored that success is fragile if it is taken for granted. Maintaining momentum depends on vigilance, planning, and a commitment to continuous improvement. Through her leadership, the the story of New York City's safest January becomes not just about statistics, but about human direction, accountability, and foresight. It demonstrates that while numbers may tell the story of decline and violent incidents, leadership provides the context and structure that makes such outcomes possible. Commissioner Tisch's perspective reinforces a simple but powerful truth. A safer city is the product of deliberate, informed action, guided by leaders who understand that progress must be nurtured, maintained, and built upon each day. As the calendar turned and New Yorkers reflected on January 2026, the city's achievement became more than just a line in a report or a brief mention in the news. New York City had proven that transformation was possible, even in a metropolis long associated with unpredictability, density, and complex social dynamics. A city that had often been defined by crime and chaos now stood as a living example that deliberate effort, strong leadership, and active community participation could reshape the environment, creating tangible safety where uncertainty once prevailed. The safest January ever is not simply a statistic. It represents a milestone in a larger journey, a snapshot of what can be achieved when multiple elements converge toward a common goal. Leadership, as demonstrated by Commissioner Jessica Tisch, provided direction, accountability, and foresight. Her emphasis on data-driven strategy, adaptive policing, and visible presence laid the groundwork for measurable change. Officers on the ground executed these strategies with discipline, ensuring that policies translated into reality on the streets, neighborhoods, and public transit systems. Equally important was the role of the community. Residents, local organizations, and civic leaders contributed to this achievement through cooperation, awareness, and engagement. By participating in neighborhood programs, observing their surroundings, and reporting incidents, everyday New Yorkers became active partners in safety. The January milestone is a testament to this synergy between leadership, law enforcement, and the public, demonstrating that sustainable safety is never the product of a single entity, but of collaboration across multiple levels of society. Even as some challenges remained, isolated incidents of transit crime or minor assaults, the overall narrative is one of progress. The calm streets, the reduction in violent incidents, and the renewed confidence of residents illustrate that change is not only possible, but achievable with sustained effort. It is a reminder that urban safety is complex, multifaceted, and dynamic, yet every step toward it is meaningful and transformative. As we close this story, the message is clear. New York City's record-breaking January is a milestone, not an endpoint. It is proof that even in the largest, most unpredictable urban environments, deliberate action, community collaboration, and committed leadership can create measurable change. For the city's residents, this moment will be remembered as a rare period of relief and stability. For the broader world, it serves as a case study in how strategy, foresight, and partnership can redefine the narrative of public safety in a major metropolis.